If you feel any frustration or anxiety when it comes to grocery shopping, keep watching for some different techniques that you can use to make your grocery shopping experience a little bit more easeful. While grocery shopping sounds like a normal activity, it's actually incredibly frustrating and confusing and anxiety-provoking for many, many people. This is especially true if you are struggling with your relationship with food. Now let's start off with the shopper that pretty much buys the same thing every week. They know what they want, they know what they need, but maybe you end up buying something that you already have, or maybe you forget something that you actually need. For this type of shopper, what I would recommend is either keep a running list, and when you run out of something, write it down on the shopping list. You can also take inventory before you go grocery shopping. So take a quick look at the fridge, at your pantry, and see what you're running low on and what you actually need. Now, if you are a foodie and you love experiencing different meals, you like switching up, you love the novelty and the excitement of it, but maybe you find that there's a lot of food waste with that, what I would recommend is pick a themed cuisine for the week. So for example, maybe you do Greek-inspired meals. So maybe you get some tzatziki sauce, some falafel, some feta, some olives, etc. And you focus on Greek-themed meals throughout the week. Now, if you have the time and the bandwidth, you can also do some research on recipes that might sound interesting, and that basically tells you all the ingredients that you need to get for the week. Now, if you've been meal prepping, you probably have it down to a science. But if you're new to meal prepping and not really sure where to start, what I recommend is figure out the meals that you're gonna meal prep. What carbohydrates do you need? What proteins do you need? What fats do you need? And what produce do you need, right? What fruits, vegetables, as well as sauces and condiments. Maybe you're gonna make chicken, rice, and roasted vegetables. So what you're gonna wanna do is figure out how much chicken do I need for the week, how many vegetables do I need, and how much rice do I need for the week. And you have your shopping list. Now the thing with this too is that you might get bored of the same old thing. So there's so many different ways you can approach this while keeping the ingredients the same. Spice it up a little bit with some melted cheese, some spices. Also play around with different sauces, as those also can last longer in the fridge. So maybe you work with a barbecue sauce or a teriyaki sauce. Maybe you make the chicken with various marinades to kind of keep it interesting. Now, if you're struggling with your relationship with food, you might not have a clue as to what you want to eat, what meals you want to eat, how to make the meals, how to make a balanced meal. It can feel completely overwhelming. And this can feel even more overwhelming if you also have ADHD, which very often is seen with eating disorder clients. Let's make some plans. I have a few different ways to do this so that you can properly nourish your body because you deserve that. The first approach is meal-based. So you take a piece of paper, your computer, whiteboard, your phone, whatever you're using, and you break it down by meal. So you have your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, and your snacks. Now, some people like to combine dinner and lunch. Some people also don't like breakfast foods. And here's a little secret the breakfast industry doesn't want you to know. You don't have to eat breakfast foods at breakfast. Friends, your body just needs nourishment. And if you're not into breakfast foods and that's gonna stop you from eating, eat something else. If you're craving steak and potatoes at 8 a.m., have the steak and potatoes, right? Nourishment is number one. So if you're feeling really lost, what I would recommend is maybe just pick one option. One breakfast option, one lunch, one dinner, and I would suggest at least a couple snack options so you don't get bored. So what does this look like? Maybe you know that for breakfast you love eggs and toast and avocado. Awesome. Write down the meal name, write down the ingredients, however you're gonna remember what you need. And you do that for lunch, dinner, and snacks. So you have your list of meals, your list of snacks, the ingredients, so that you know what you're getting when you go into the store. And the beautiful part about this too is that it's already planned out. So you don't have to think about it. What am I gonna eat? I don't know what I wanna eat. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. I have no idea. I don't know what to put together. I don't know if it's balanced. I don't know how much. You have it set. You have your meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And you don't have to put energy into thinking about what that is. Now, the more comfortable you feel with variety, you can begin including different options. So maybe you have a few options for breakfast and lunch and dinner and snacks. Now, if that's not speaking to you, another way you can do this, especially if you're really working on balance in your nutrition, is you can break it down by nutrient. So we have the macronutrients. Macro meaning large, right? Because we need larger amounts of the macronutrients than, say, the micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, where we need smaller amounts. So you have your macronutrients, you have your carbohydrates, you have your protein, you have your fat. you also have vegetables and fruit. So you have 5 different categories. What I would also suggest including, if it's comfortable, is to also include spices and sauces. But if you have an established fridge and pantry, you might already have what you need. But just focusing on the macronutrients, right? You have a list of your carbohydrates that you tend to eat in the week, so maybe English muffins, rice, breads, etc. And then you have your proteins, so maybe dairy options, chicken, tofu, beans, etc. You have your fat options, avocado, oils, butter, etc. And then you have your fruits and your vegetables. So to review, we talked about taking inventory before going to the store. We talked about picking a themed cuisine for the week. We also talked about ideas for meal preppers. And for those of you that are working on your relationship with food, we talked about breaking it down by meals and nutrition components. This is just a sampling of some ways you can approach it. And if you have a technique that you like, I invite you to share it in the comments so that we can grow as a community and cultivate different approaches as we all operate in different ways. So until next time, friends, stay curious.